to follow, what's your name, sweetie? Eliana. How hard was it for you to follow her?
They were screaming in my ear.
So, what made you get to her?
Follow the voice.
I kept telling you, follow the voice. Can you say that again? You said it so sweet. Follow the voice. Follow the voice. That was awesome. Yeah, so by keying in to the voice in the microphone, it was easier, right? Yeah? But it was still distracting, even when voices were like, turn around, reverse, go under the chairs, you know? Talk to me. That's awesome. Well, you guys did an amazing job. But that's what we're going to be talking about today, is listening to the voice of who? God. Listening to the voice of God. Even when there's voices of who? The devil, or not just the devil, the voice of other people, the voice of other distractions. That's what we're talking about today. So before we get to that, I need two people, one guy, but you're not coming up. I just want to hear something from you. So this is going to be, look, everyone puts their hand up. One guy and one girl that can tell me one thing that they have learned in this year, either from chapel, either from my talks, either from someone else's, or one of your lessons throughout this school year. You and a girl. And a girl. And a girl. Yeah, sweetie. Come on, run. Come on.
I'm so excited.
Come on.
Good job.
I learned that God is always with us in hard times.
That's awesome. That's good. That's not meant to bully. Did you learn that from Esteban? Did you learn that from Esteban Gonzalez? He came and he says, people always bully me because I'm short. You guys remember him, right? That's awesome. Well, you can tell I'm not strong. Well, you guys have been doing what all year? Learning, sitting. Sitting and learning, I hope. I hope you've been listening. But throughout this whole year, you guys have been learning things, soaking things up. Your teachers have been instilling wisdom into you guys. Your teachers have been pouring into you guys about how much God loves you and things about how you can use what God tells you in your life, right? All kinds of things to learn, right?
Right.
But, thank you. Yes, your teacher's been listening. That's awesome. Well, guess what? Do you guys know who the disciples are? Yes. Well, guess what they were doing? Guess what they were doing when they were hanging out with Jesus? They were learning, and they were soaking up wisdom from Jesus. So the disciples were doing the same thing, you know, in just a different way. They were hanging out with Jesus. But basically, the disciples were Jesus' boys. They were his boys. Those were his homies. That was his crew, okay? You can say that was his crew. But they went everywhere with him. They learned everything that they can. They soaked up all that they can. But they were doing the same thing that you guys are doing. They were learning and taking it all in. So, one time Jesus and his crew, Jesus and his homies were hanging out. And Jesus told them, look, y'all get in the boat and go to the other side. And they were like, you're not coming with us? And he was like, no, I'm going to go hang out with my daddy. Who's his daddy? God. He was like, no, I'm going to go hang out with my daddy. I'm going to go into the forest or, you know, the park. We can say the park, modern day age. And he was like, I'm going to go spend time with my dad. Y'all go on into the boat, go to the other side. I'll meet you there later. And the disciples were like, okay. And so they got in the boat, and Jesus let them go on their own without him. Why do you think that is? He let them go without him. To trust their faith? To test their faith? That's good. Yeah. Well, Jesus let them go because he trusted them and he believed in them. He was like, man, you guys have been learning so much. I mean, come on, I'm just going to go into the park for a little bit and hang out with my dad. You guys can do this. You guys got this little thing, you know? And he believed in them. And that's what I want you guys, first of all, to know. That the disciples were learning so much, you know, and you guys are learning so much, and Jesus believes in you. So Jesus has given wisdom to your teachers, and now your teachers have put it into you, and Jesus says, guys, I believe in you. Eliana, I believe in you. Jason, I believe in you. You know, that's what Jesus is saying to you. So now, are you guys a little nervous or a little excited that you're almost done with school?
Excited.
Excited? I heard the teacher say, excited, I can't wait. Well, that's awesome. So you guys are almost out of school. That means, well, this is your last chapel, right?
Yeah. We have one more.
So this is your guys' last chapel. And then soon, 3 weeks, I think you guys will be out of school. Then what? Then what? Happy days. That means you guys won't be in this school hearing about the Lord every day. That means you guys won't be in this chapel every week hearing about God and how much He loves you and how incredible He is. So that means you guys are going to be, maybe you can say, yeah, church. Maybe you guys can say you're going to be in an uncomfortable place throughout the summer. Not church, but being without the school, being without chapel, being without people there, like your teachers that say, hey, just remember God's promises. You know, would you guys say that it's going to be a little different?
Yes.
For any of you? Yeah? I would say it's going to be a little different. Well, I want to tell you guys that when they were on the boat, they're just sailing and sailing, having a good time. And then all of a sudden, these huge waves started coming in, and the storm started coming in. And what do you think they did? They were screaming.
Jump off.
They were screaming. They didn't jump off. Come on. Not yet. Not yet. Yeah. But they were getting scared. They were like, oh man, it's a storm. You know, what are we going to do? And maybe they were like, oh, where's Jesus? Where's Jesus when we need Him? You know, there's a storm going on and it's just us. And maybe sometimes you guys think that, or maybe you guys will think that. There's a storm going on, there's something going on in my life. Where's Jesus? I'm all alone. But how many of you know that Jesus never leaves us nor forsakes us? Amen. Amen. So now you guys have been learning all this stuff all year. Jesus believes in you. And now when a storm comes, when something happens in your life, this is the time that you guys remember Jesus' promises to you. This is the time that you remember all these things that you've learned, you put them to the test. You put them to work. You know, you put God's love, you say, man, this storm has nothing on me because I know Jesus. Okay? So you guys remember that. So anyways, they're in the storm and they're riding on the boat. And you guys know when there's a storm, when there's a big storm, that there's like a mist, especially where there's an ocean, especially. But there's a mist and it's kind of hard to see, like a fog, and it's kind of hard to see. Do you guys know that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? So they're on this boat and they're like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'm scared. And then, guess what? They see somebody in the fog walking on the water. And what do they say? They say, it's a ghost. And what do you think Jesus says? He says, where? Nice. I'm Jesus. He says, come on. He says, I'm not a ghost, I'm Jesus. But, guess what? So all the disciples are on the boat, and they're like, it's a ghost, and Jesus is like, no, chill out, it's just me. It's not just me. It's me. It's me. It's me. I can't do it like Jesus. but all of them are like, well, that's not Jesus, that's not Jesus. But who knows Peter? The disciple Peter. Y'all know Peter? Y'all know about Peter? Yeah? Yeah? Peter was a bad dude. For real. Peter was bad. I'm telling you. And where I'm from, that means good. Like, man, that's a bad dude, you know? But you could also say he's a bad in a different way too, because somebody asked him, hey, you know Jesus? He's like, nah, I don't know that man. 3 times. 3 times. But I'm telling you, that was a bad dude in a bad way. but in a good way too. Because check this out, even though he was just like you and I, he lied, I'm sure he did other things, and still Jesus used him. Still Jesus said, I'm going to use you, Peter. I'm going to use you. I see something bigger in you. And today Jesus is saying, I see something bigger in you. He says, I want to use you. I see something bigger in you than just our human flesh. Because as humans, we fail, right? Right? So anyways, Peter was like, man, is that Jesus? And he was talking to himself and the disciples were like, nah, that's not Jesus, that's a ghost. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. But Peter, what did Peter say? Yes. He said, man, if you're my dude, if you're my boy, if you're my big, as my dancers say, if you're my Jesus, then tell me to come to you, walking on the water. What did Jesus say? He said, alright then, get your big booty out of the boat and come on. He said, come on, what are you waiting for? And you know what, I can just imagine, I don't know what Peter looked like, because none of us do. That'd be a little weird if you were like, he's my cousin. But I can just imagine this big old boat, and then Peter, he's getting out of the boat. You guys remember when I was climbing down this in my big old boot, and I almost fell? You guys remember that? I can just imagine Peter was looking a little bit like me, like, I'm scared. But check this out. Check this out. There's one foot in the boat, right? And then there's one foot about to be on the water. Or maybe even dangling the toes. Hopefully not dangling, because I mean, he has long toes, but putting his foot on the water. So that means he's in between, right? What do you think the disciples are saying to Peter? Right. He's saying, man, you are crazy. They're saying, you are crazy, dude. What are you doing? You cannot walk on water. You're just Peter. You are just Peter. You are not Jesus. You are not a God. You are just Peter. He's saying, all the disciples were like, man, I know you're not about to get on that water and think that you can walk on the water. So all of these disciples were putting down, no, don't do it, don't do it. And how many of you guys know that sometimes when God calls us to do something, and He calls us to step out of our faith, step out of our comfort zone, how many of you guys know that people around you sometimes, well, I know firsthand, say, man, you are crazy. Man, you are crazy. You can't do that. You're just Jerusha. You can't do that. You're just Sarah. You can't do that. You're just Hannah. You're just Linda. How many of you guys know that? Maybe not in those words. Maybe they don't say you're just that person. But how many of you guys know that people like, man, you're crazy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just live the normal life. Live what's normal. Stay in the boat. Just walk around on what's comfortable and what we can see instead of getting out and stepping out into the unseen. How many of you guys know that? Yeah? Well,